All right, welcome to episode 8 of Hyper Hoops. Our first topic for today is the current situation. Nets have been struggling. They're out without James Harden, and the Lakers have been without LeBron James and are struggling. I believe they're in 7th place now in the West and will be in the play-in tournament. So my question is, which one of these teams is more likely to not reach the finals right now?
I think the Lakers have the greater chance not to be getting to the finals. The East is whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a much easier chance of getting through the East. Whereas the West, can they get past the Clippers? Who knows? Any given night, can they get past Denver? Can they get past Utah? There's so many more teams that are really good that it's going to be a lot harder for them to get through, especially with LeBron James not being healthy and Andre Drummond being the source of them losing 10 of the past 15 games. He's not actually the source. The fact that LeBron's not in the lineup is the source. But, it's a funny stat that they got him 15 games ago and they lost 10 of them.
That's fair.
I think I think this year the playoffs are going to be a complete crapshoot on
Okay.
both sides.
Okay.
Because you look at these are the two of the top teams,
Mm-hmm.
and yet with between the injuries, like the Nets haven't had like all their three superstars together for more than a couple games at a time, and the Lakers are a mess right now with the injuries. Between these two teams' injury situations, both of them are, you know, severely flawed. I wouldn't be surprised if neither of them made it at this point. I would say that because the Lakers are close to being in the play-in game, which is going to put them in a situation where anything could happen. They are probably the more vulnerable to not make the finals. I agree with Stefan. The East is a little easier. If the Nets finish with the 3 seed, they're probably still on track to, at least face the Bucks. But the Lakers, they're in a bit of trouble, and I've been watching this week. Even as they're trying to get Davis and LeBron back in the lineup,
Mm-hmm.
they're right out of the lineup again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they may run out of time before this is all said and done.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. Lakers have a really tough time trying to get to the finals. The play-in plus having to play a top seed is that path is going to be very difficult for them, and especially when they're not playing very well and when they have so many injuries already. It's a very very difficult task for them to get to the finals. Yeah, so definitely agree with you guys.
How uneasy of a feeling, though, do you get in regards to the Nets having the fact that the three of them have not really played together? Are you just of the belief that much firepower, it really doesn't matter how well you gel?
It does matter. I
Okay.
mean, basketball is a team game.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, it will come into play. Like if they're playing against a team that's been playing together all season or for 2 or 3 seasons, as opposed to a bunch of people that just got put together like 3 weeks ago, it will make a difference. But they are talented enough to overcome it against weaker teams. But near the end, I think the truth will come out. I mean, we saw this a few years ago with Miami when LeBron and Wade teamed
Mhm.
up, right? At some point in the pressure moments against an experienced team with on the biggest stage, that stuff starts to matter, and I think it'll come out at some point. And they may be able to avoid it if they get really really lucky, and all these other teams have injuries, and it's this weird compressed COVID season.
Mhm.
But in a regular, basketball situation, that stuff does matter.
It does, but I don't see that coming from the East anywhere. Like, if you look up and down the East, who's the veteran, experienced team that you can
Milwaukee,
see?
Milwaukee.
Would you really classify them as a veteran team that can
I
do
think
it, though?
I think they've been through, like, teams have to go through the fire, right? You have to flounder in the playoffs a couple of times, like Chicago Bulls style against the Detroit Pistons before they make it to the top. So yeah, they've never climbed the mountain, but they do have the experience. They have arguably the most talented player in the game, and with LeBron hurt, I would probably put Giannis as maybe the best player now.
Oh,
Then
shit.
they have the tools. They have the tools to be able to do it.
Yeah, the Raptors went through the same kind of stuff, right? The playoffs, always losing, but then they just got over that hump, and I see Milwaukee doing the same. They do have the experience, though. They it's all a learning experience, right? Losing that much in the playoffs, and especially Giannis, like down the stretch, or having to find his game in the playoffs. I think he's going to be all right now. And plus, the East is wide open. So this is the one team that has been consistent throughout the regular season for the last how many years now. And there are the up and coming New Jersey Nets here, but yeah, again, it's very they're unpredictable in what they're going to do in the playoffs. So I think that's what's going for Milwaukee right now.
Yeah, and just I don't know, guys, if you heard, it's been years since this happened, but I think this week New York officially clinched a winning record. So awesome job. And I always forget that RJ Barrett's on the New York Knicks, so I should really cheer for them a bit, just because I want him to do well. All right, so this next question is in regards to teaching someone basketball. So for our viewers who are unaware, Jay has 2 daughters, Dave has a daughter and a son. Me and Stefan thankfully don't have kids because bad things would happen. But we'll just say if you're teaching somebody new to the game, and you wanted them to watch someone play and imitate this person's game, who do you show your son or daughter, your friend, like whose game should they mimic?
So this one's easy for me. I gotta show both kids. Actually, we were watching it yesterday morning. If you go on YouTube, you can find Michael Jordan, "Come Fly with Me." Those old NBA entertainment videos from the 90s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
That is the guy that you got. Because it's not just about. I mean, he has all the fundamental skills.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like the form, the technique, right? He also has like the spectacular skills to keep the kids interested, right? And you watch and learn from him. That's the history of basketball right there. So as an old man basketball fan, that's the clip I'm going to show. It's not going to be any of these young guys from today. Thank you.
So it has to be we can choose like a current player or a player in the past.
Yeah. Anytime period.
It would be Jordan, and then the next one would be Kobe. That would be it, because those guys have the total package of skills: offense and defense, scoring, ball handling. That would be the most general type of player that you'd want your child to play like, unless they started to develop a very specific, like, niche in the game. Like, let's say it became huge and you needed a big man skill, or you could see that they're developing into a shooter, right? Otherwise, it's got to be one of the two. Got to be.
I think I would choose to go a little more realistic with this. I'm not particularly gifted as an athlete, so I would assume that my child allegedly would also not be very gifted. So I would show them footage of Yogi Stewart sitting on the bench and making them learn how to do that properly.
You
But
wouldn't
for a
even need
more
a basketball
realistic
person. You could get a pianist. You can practice sitting straight.
Exactly. From a more realistic thing, and I think this is going to change between all of us. It's going to be the way we like, or like what we like to see in the sport, and that's kind of going to push our narrative that way. I really like, people that can pass well. So I would definitely show them Stockton, Nash, Luka, Jokic. But like Jokic is such a freak, like 7 foot tall, able to pass like that. It's kind of hard to replicate that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would get them to watch people who are really good at passing and try to emulate that, because, everybody likes somebody that can get them an assist.
I have a difficult time trying to pick a player, but the one player that I really would say that's the game that you should look for. Like, I would say Grant Hill.
Okay.
He has the absolute all-around game. Both on offense and defense, he can distribute the ball, rebound, shooting. It's all there. Like, he can play every single position if he really wanted to. He's that good. So I would say Grant Hill. He has all the fundamentals, and learning basketball. I think that's the top thing, that when you are learning basketball, learn the fundamentals, because there's all sort of athletic gifted players, but you don't necessarily have to be that athletic. There's plenty of players that go into the NBA that are not that great of athletes, but they have amazing fundamentals. So Grant Hill, I look at, and I just see just great fundamentals, very good basketball IQ. hustles hard on defense too. So I would say Grant Hill for sure.
Yeah, my thinking was similar to Stefan, and it's a great way of how you put it, Stefan. It's just we would choose somebody who how we like to see the game played, and yeah, I would try to pick someone like, as you guys kind of said, just not super athletic. They're just using their skill, and that's like what makes them dominant. And for me, I just love Steve Nash's game, and I like the fact that he was very ambidextrous. I think the story goes he hurt his right hand one season or something along that line, and he just used his left hand, and that's why he was so good dribbling left. And the fact that he's an amazing shooter, like free throw line, 2-point shots and 3-point shots, that kind of thing. And like, I don't think Steve Nash is unathletic, but just in the grand scheme of the NBA, he doesn't look the most athletic, and it was just his skill that kind of got him there. So definitely would point my kid or a friend in that direction. But like you all said, fundamentals, they're not flashy, but it's so important.
Steve Nash is pretty flashy though. But my one quibble with these passing guys like Steve Nash and Kidd and Magic Johnson is that is the hardest thing to teach someone about basketball. You could teach them how to do the fundamental like chest pass and bounce pass and shoot and everything else, but that court vision thing is so difficult to teach. I mean, we've played basketball, right? Some people just seem like they're born with that to a level that everyone else does not have, right? And you can kind of see it on the court. Even guys who aren't great at dribbling and stuff, some people are just naturally better at passing, I think. To me, that's the most nebulous skill. I don't even know how I would teach a kid how to play like Steve Nash.
And our final question, I guess I'll word it like this. What NBA player, past or present, you've heard a story and you just thought, wow, this guy seems like a really cool person maybe to hang out with, talk to, or just like a genuinely good person. I'm just going to kick it off with a story I heard about two or three players that are just going to go quickly. I think the first one was Steve Nash when he was at the Olympics with the Canadian team. And it was something along the lines of he like just paid for everything for the rest of the teammates because he was like the only NBA player. And I think back then he was the people on the team with him were just probably, they had normal jobs and they were just part of the Canadian national basketball team, that kind of thing. And the second one was just talking about it was in Norm Powell's article when he said when he was a rookie, he went out with DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. They were just like in a fancy department store, and he just said he was just wearing the Raptors gear all the time because he was just a poor rookie, and they're just like, hey, buy whatever you want, I don't care, and that kind of thing. And one of my friends, mutual friend Johnny, with me and Stefan, he said he was talking to Morris Pearson once, and he just said he was like a really cool guy and down to earth. And after that, I just had such a high view of Morris Pearson. So yeah, stuff like that. What players come to mind when I say that for you?
The player that comes to mind is actually, it's just this random story.
Okay.
Back in the day when Charlie Villanueva played in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
One time, my buddy was like, we were all living downtown, but he was living in an apartment near Skydome. He ran into Charlie Villanueva in like the lobby of his condo. Okay. Right, the dude was just sitting in one of those couches and waiting for a girl or something to come downstairs, and it just seemed like that's like a regular dude, right? There's nothing special about him except he was super tall and he has no eyebrows, but he's just a regular guy. So I think sometimes we lose sight of the fact that basketball players, most of them, at some level, are regular guys, right? Like some of them become super famous, like James Harden and Jordan, and become like these like mega celebrities. But a lot of them are just regular people and, no different than us at some level, hanging out in buildings waiting for people to come downstairs. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any specific person that I'd love to meet or anything, but probably a lot of them are just regular people. I think we should remember that sometimes.
I'm going to go with Dikembe Mutombo. This guy does an insane amount of charity work, and I just feel like this guy is like the most down-to-earth human being that you could be. He came from he came from Africa. I can't remember exactly what the country was. Was it Congo? He came from a very difficult situation coming up into the NBA. He made his money in the NBA, but he never lost sight of the fact where he came from, right? And the struggles people in his community had when he was growing up. So he has all sorts of charity organizations. He does all sort of charity and for his for countries in Africa and children that don't have a lot. I think there's a hospital that's also named after him in I can't remember where, but yeah. So there's he pretty much after the NBA or even while he was in the NBA, he dedicated his life to just charity work and giving back to his fellow countrymen and people that don't have a lot or we're living in poverty and struggle. And then I think that's just really important to do as an athlete. You, especially when you have grown up in that situation, you don't forget about where you came from and the struggles that you had to deal with. So really cool guy too. Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I got nothing.
Okay, that's all good. All good.
You know what you should have asked? The better question is the opposite. Like, what is the athlete that you do not, that we have a bad story about, or that who we would never want to hang out?
I don't know if I have any off the top of my head that. Oh, actually, I do. So our friend Stefan and I have a friend. His name is Rami, and I believe he's been to Jamaica multiple times. He has a friend there, so he's been there a few times. He knows it, and he said he was in a club or something, and he saw Usain Bolt. And I think he just said, "Oh, I don't know if he wanted to like picture or just say something to him or whatever." But apparently, he just kind of like brushed him off. And after that, he just said, "Oh, I was like really put off by that," and obviously that passed on to me.
Really, I heard that Usain Bolt was actually like a really cool guy. He's a really nice guy. I heard the opposite.
I mean, definitely possible, man.
It's probably hard to tell based on one thing, right?
Exactly.
Maybe he was having a bad day or he was busy or whatever, right? Who knows?
Well, there's also the NBA player who streams on Twitch and decides that his background should be him dunking, and then all the racist stuff. But who is the guy who went on Twitch and said
It's that white guy, right?
Yeah. I don't even remember his name.
No, he's not even a good player.
But his desktop background was him dunking, and it was just like, why? Why do you have that as your background? Are you fucking narcissist? Well, I mean, obviously, but
we'll end it with kind of one more good story, and it's just about Giannis. I heard him recently in an interview where I think he was just talking about his dad and just how much he respected him or respects him and all he did for his family. And he just said how important family is to him. And something along the lines of, like, if his son ever said to him, "Dad, when are you going to retire so you can play with me more?" He just said, "I would retire then and there because that's more important than basketball." And I respect people who hold their family in high regard. And I've seen just clips of him where he just seems really good with kids. And I think there's this clip specifically at the All-Star game when Russell Westbrook is doing like a press conference, and he's just like on the side. He's like, "Hey, can I hold your kid?" And it was just one of those random things. Anyways, yeah, Giannis seems like a really down to earth guy.
A very difficult question.
It is, but I was just thinking about like perception and.
So do any of you guys follow specific NBA players like on its social media?
I think I just started following Damian Lillard, but just because I like him. But otherwise, no. Like I really don't follow. I might have followed Steve Nash back in the day on like Facebook, something like that.
Yeah.
But like to actively follow like someone on Twitter, no, I don't do that. How about you, Dave?
Well, Jeremy Lin, I follow him. It's pissing me off. He's not in the NBA right now.
He's G Leaguing, right?
Well, the G League season was only 15 games. It ended.
Oh, okay.
He was one of the top scorers. He's the highest scorer that did not get a spot in the NBA. All the other guys
Interesting.
in the top 5 or whatever ahead of him have gotten spots or something.
Okay.
Doesn't Golden State have his rights?
Well, he's technically a free agent, but yeah, at this point.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought he was like technically on their team somehow.
Yeah, it seems weird to me that teams wouldn't take a flyer on him
Yeah,
just to at least let him make the team, because I think he's good enough to play, right?
like a backup point guard at the very
Yeah,
least. Yeah,
that just seems kind of strange.
Even a third string point guard. It's just like, I don't know, man. It's weird, man. You think it's racism or something like that? That's keeping.
because
well, he's been saying a lot of controversial stuff this year.
at the very
wasn't
least,
really.
they would sell a pile of jerseys, right? Like,
Yeah.
I would be buying 10 jerseys. So at the very least, they would get that money. But I don't get it. I don't actually get why he can't crack a roster.
Just on the topic of him, he seems like a really down-to-earth person as well. Just I've heard interviews, and I know basically every teammate of Jeremy Lin's in the past have spoken so highly of him. So I think, yeah, that would be one cool person to talk to and just hang out with as well.
Yeah, plus he's smart as hell, man. Like you don't see you don't have a lot of those NBA players with the kind of education that Jeremy Lin has had, right?
Playing basketball at an Ivy League school, yeah, I don't think most players generally do that.
Yeah.
Anyways, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys for joining me. As always, had a ton of fun talking with you. Until next time, please take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next video. Bye.
Cheers.
So yeah.